Did you know there was a $200 coin that's actually now worth nearly $800? So beginning in the 1980s, the Royal Australian Mint went on a bit of a production spree with the very, very famous and still very popular to this day $200 gold coin. You've probably seen these before. They were issued most commonly with the koala design on them, as well as a range of proof options. There were a couple of different designs they used. There were a number of iconic Australian animals, as well as some historic figures. So it may shock you to learn that these very valuable coins are actually incredibly common and not really collectible at all. Which begs the question, why would people be paying over $800 for a coin with a face value of just $200? The answer is the gold. So the gold content of these coins works out to be 10 grams of pure gold, which is actually 0.2948 of an ounce of gold. So in 1980, when production of these coins began, the spot price of gold was $650 an ounce. I'm using approximate figures and it's a floating market, so approximately $650 Australian per ounce of gold, which meant that these 10-gram coins were worth just over $190. So you can see how it was a pretty reasonable offer to be paying somewhere in the neighborhood of $230, or I think it was up to $290 for the proof issue for a sizable chunk of gold. So they were actually being sold at a very comparable rate to the attributed face value. So let's talk mintage. The grand total of $200 gold coins produced is 869,711. Now this is running between 1980 all the way through to 1993. And I've included both the uncirculated issues as well as the proof in that total figure. So almost 1 million of these coins exist, which makes them pretty common and not all that rare. It's also worth pointing out that in 1980 alone, the total of 257,577 of these coins were produced. So that's pretty impressive. There must have been a reasonable demand for this type of thing, although you will see the mintages taper off significantly. So it went from those massive hundreds of thousands to, by the end of it, they were only making, a few thousand of each issue. I think it became perhaps less popular as time went on, although now they're enjoying quite a lot of popularity with the bullion community, people that are wanting to access gold at a reasonable price, but also have the coin and slight collectability component to their collection. An easy way to identify which coin you have in terms of an uncirculated or the proof is the uncirculated coins were issued in small flips, and those flips actually had PVC in the plastic. So often when you open them, they'll be incredibly sticky and a little hard to open. The coin itself will also often be sticky with that residue, but rest assured that won't actually affect the gold value of the coin. So if someone tells you this $200 gold coin is not worth as much because it has residue on it, they're actually telling you a fib, because most of them, actually in my experience, all of them are just worth the gold content. So they're usually traded based primarily on the gold value at the time, and I'll actually give you a handy tip on how to calculate that. So in order to calculate the bullion value or the melt value of your $200 gold coin, the equation is very simple. Sometimes people say, oh Matt, you must be pretty handy with maths being in this industry. That's not the case. There's just a few simple calculations you need to familiarize yourself with, and you'll be all over it in no time. So the equation to work out the value of a $200 gold coin is you take the spot price and multiply that by 0.2948, which is the actual gold weight of the coin. That is to say, removing any of the additional components, you're calculating just the raw gold value, and the figure you come up with will be the bullion value, also known as the melt value of the $200 gold coin. There's a number of different places that you can get the spot price from. Personally, I use Kitco, but there are a number of different places that you can get that price from. Usually you'll be within the same ballpark, that shouldn't fluctuate too much. Also make sure that if you're in Australia and you're dealing in Australian dollars, that you have the setting to Australian dollars. This may come as a shock, but my personal collection has never had any $200 gold coins in it. The reason for that is that, in my opinion, they're not particularly historic, and I also don't find them very interesting. I think there are some nice designs. I like the Arthur Phillip design, for instance, and there are some nice Australian animals in there, but more often than not, I come across the koala, which is the most common of the designs, and it just doesn't really spark any excitement for me. I realize that there are a number of people out there that love them and actively collect them. I can fully appreciate anyone wanting to make up a full set and get one of each design and things like that. If I were to be buying them, or if I were to be making a recommendation to someone looking into $200 gold coins, personally I would look towards the proof coins because they have a nicer finish, and generally speaking you wouldn't expect to pay a significant premium because they're all generally traded pretty close to their gold value. But bear in mind that most people in Australia, dealers in particular, will have to add a GST component because they're not pure bullion coins. Which is a fun fact. In Australia, bullion coins, that is to say the pure gold and silver coins, do not attract GST. Special thanks to Ozguy for the request for the $200 gold video. I really appreciate any recommendations of interesting or historic coins that people would like to learn a little more about. I realise that this may not be the most exciting or interesting video, possibly because I'm not wildly enthusiastic about the $200 gold coin, but I hope some of this information has been helpful, particularly giving you the tools to calculate the gold value yourself. And if there's anything that you'd like to learn a little more about, feel free to put it in the comments. Also, I'd like to know from you, if you would prefer, given the opportunity, would you take a gold sovereign or a $200 gold coin? There is a little more gold in the $200 gold coin, but for me personally, it's always going to be a sovereign. I love the history, I love the designs, they're a lot of fun. But look, if I'm offered a $200 gold coin, I'm still interested. They're a really interesting coin, but not quite at the sovereign level for me. Thanks a lot for watching, and we'll see you next time.